Hey, Allison Verhalen here with AV Writing Services, and it is that time again. It's time for another Google Core update. It is releasing any day now. As I record this, it is June 4th. They said they are going to release it anytime between, they're going to start in mid-June, start rolling it out. So depending on when you see this video, it might have already begun. They have said that they are going to roll it out a little bit slowly. So it's going to be a rollout from about mid-June through August, they think. So quite a while. And that is so they can monitor any fluctuations in traffic, any issues that come up, any problems that it might cause for websites who are otherwise very high quality websites that were normally getting a lot of traffic. That being, they have said, Google has said that it will not cause huge fluctuations in traffic. This is what they call their page experience update. They want to make sure that people have a good experience when they get to your page, right? It's not just about being relevant. It's not just about making sure you have the best content. It's about making sure that you're providing a good experience, that people don't get frustrated when they try to click to your website, which makes sense, right? We want that too, because if they have a good experience, we have a better chance of converting them into a customer. So Google wants to send its people to the best content, the best websites. Google does not want to send its users somewhere where they're going to get really frustrated with something that doesn't give them what they need. Totally makes sense, right? So they are now incorporating that into their algorithm. So that's what this big update is. They're calling it their page experience update. So like I said, Google has claimed that because it is just one factor that they take into account when they're deciding where to rank certain websites, that it should not have that big an impact on anyone's rankings or anyone's traffic. But they've said that before, and every time they release one of these big major core updates, there are inevitably people who see major shifts in their website traffic, some for the better, some not so much. So take it with a grain of salt, because yes, ideally it should not have a big impact on your traffic, your search rankings, but you never know. So brace yourself, buckle up, as we always do before a big Google update, because we don't really know what's going to happen until it happens. Google doesn't even know what's going to happen until it happens. That's part of why the rollout is taking 2 to 3 months. So great page experience sounds like a good thing, right? Ideally, you should already have a good page experience. Some of the ways that Google measures page experience are things we've already talked about. I've talked about it on this blog. Google has talked about it. You should obviously have a very quick load speed so that it loads quickly. It should be easy to find what they need to find. It should be easy to navigate your site. All that stuff just makes sense from a marketing perspective, right? Well, now it also makes sense from an SEO perspective. So if you have not made sure that all your SEO ducks are in a row when it comes to your page experience, we're going to help you do that. So one of the things that Google is going to look at, take into account in their page experience update, is their core web vitals, which again is something they were already measuring. It's a way of measuring the page experience, making sure that your users have a good experience when they get to your website. So one is it's called LCP, short for largest contentful paint. And it's called that because it refers to how quickly your website can paint pixels on the screen, i.e. how fast your load speed is, right? When people click to your website, how long does it take between the time they finish that click and when your website finishes loading and it's ready to go? Should be 2.5 seconds at the most, preferably less than that, never more than 2.5 seconds. We are impatient creatures. We have come to expect things instantly, because in this digital age, when there is a lot of content that can load instantly, we are much more likely to go for the website, for the content that loads right away. And if it takes longer than 2 to 3 seconds, unless it's something we really want or really need, chances are good that we're just going to click away and find it somewhere else. So absolutely make sure that your load speed is as fast as possible. If it's not, there are a few different things that you can do to adjust. You can talk to your server, your website host. It might be something on their server. You can talk to your web design because it might have something to do with the design of your website. You can take a look at your images and videos. Images and videos are great because we are very visual creatures, but on the other hand, they do take longer to load. So keep that in mind. It's going to be a balancing act between making sure you have enough videos and infographics and visuals to keep your readers engaged, not so much that it takes forever for your website to load, because that's going to cause people to click away. So keep that in mind. Next core web vital is first input delay. So that refers to kind of like load speed. How quickly does it take your website to respond when someone clicks on a button or clicks on a link on your website to go to another part of your website, or leave your website to go to another website? Anytime they're interacting with your website and clicking on different things, it should respond immediately, ideally no more than 100 milliseconds. So again, it has to respond very quickly. If it takes longer than that, people are going to wonder if the button is broken, if the link still works, if it's really meant to be a button. Maybe it just looks like a button, but you fooled them. So always, always, always make sure that those links and those buttons work, that they do what they're supposed to do, and that they do it quickly. The third and final core web vital is your cumulative layout shift, and that refers to the visual stability of your website. Now, if you've ever been to a website and you go to click on something while the website is still loading, and in the time it takes you to hover over whatever it is you click and finish the click, an ad popped up in that same spot. And now you've clicked through to that ad that you don't want. You don't even know what it is. You have no interest in it. You wanted to go to that other thing. And now you have to go back to the website and try to find that link again, wait for the website to load fully, wait for the ad to load, and then click on that thing. What are the chances you're going to do that? Because that's a really frustrating experience, right? No one wants to go through all that. Again, if it's something you really need, you're going to go through it. But if it's not something you need, if it's something you were just exploring and they made it really hard for you to get to what you're trying to get to, your chances are good you're not going to spend the time to go back and wait for the site to load and wait for the ad to load and find that link or that button again and then click on what you were looking for, right? Chances are good you're just going to click away and find what you need somewhere else. Or if it was something that you were mildly interested in but not super interested in, you don't really need this, then you might not look for it at all. You might get back to work or walking your dog or taking care of your kids or whatever else you need to do that you've got on your plate today. You're going to attend to those other things instead of fighting with a website that does not give you a good experience. So by contrast, so that's what it means when it calls for visual stability. That is an example of low visual stability or bad visual stability. Good stability is when you look at a website and it's still loading and you see the ads are loading, but there's that big blank space where it says ad and it'll have that little spin wheel thingy letting you know that the ad is loading. But in the meantime, you can scroll past that and anything you want to click on will still be there when you go to click on it, even if the ad finishes loading while you're in the process of clicking on that link or that button or whatever. So that's a really good example of good visual stability. If that is what you want. If you don't already have that, again, talk to your web developer, or your web developer should be able to help you with that. If not, and this might not be an issue if you don't have ads on your website. This is only an issue if you do have ads. So, but again, that's something to think about. It could be something to think about with your visuals. I have images on my site that I know sometimes take a little while to load. So if that's an issue where the images or the video takes a while to load and then it shifts everything around, that's not a good user experience. So absolutely keep that in mind. So Next up is Google's Top Stories Carousel feature. So that's the carousel feature at the top of Google. It cycles through news content, the breaking news, the latest news of the day. So previously, as long as it met Google's news policies and was created using the accelerated mobile pages or AMP format, you would get stuff popping up in that top stories carousel. With this update, it does not need to be in AMP format. It does still need to abide by Google's news policies. So now it could be a blog post on your blog that shows up in that top stories feature. Again, if it follows Google's news policies. So if that's something that you're looking to get some more visibility with, check out those news policies, see if you can get content that abides by those policies and is relevant enough to show up in that top stories features. That could be really beneficial. Same goes for content that appears in the Google News app. So if you know your users tend to use that Google News app and you want to get your content featured there, again, take a look at Google's news policies and see what you need to do to show up there. So again, as with every part of its algorithm, Google is constantly learning what makes for a good user experience. So while some of these biggest changes will be coming this summer, expect more changes to come later as Google continues to gather more information and adjust its algorithm accordingly. Google is also going to be adding the new page experience report. So if you use Google Search Console, and if you don't, why not? But if you do use it, you'll notice the addition of a page experience report. So this kind of gives your website a score based on the page experience. Again, based on the core web vitals that I just talked about, as well as HTTPS, how mobile friendly it is, etc. All those things that you need to have a website that is really easy to find, to load, to interact with, that provides a good user experience, is secure. That's where the HTTPS comes in. You need all of that. So your Google Search Console, if you're not sure if you're abiding by all the stuff that you need to in order to provide that good page experience according to Google, then the Google Search Console can help you with that. It will also tell you, among other things, what percentage of the pages on your website provide a good user experience, as well as which ones provide a good user experience, again, according to Google. So they'll be updating your search performance accordingly, so you can select only your web pages that have a good user experience and compare them to other pages on other websites that have a good user experience. So that's a great way for you to see how you measure up against the competition. Do you have as many pages that have a good user experience? Is your user experience score as high as that of your competition? Always a good thing to know. So play around with that. I don't think it has been introduced yet. Again, I am recording this on June 4th. Maybe it will have been recorded by the time you see this, or it will have been introduced by the time you see this video. So what can you do to prepare for the rollout? Like I said, make sure you have all your ducks in a row, but I've mentioned this before with other Google core algorithm updates, is that there's really not much you can do by the time it gets to be time to actually roll it out, because Google takes into account all of the stuff on your website from months back, right? So ideally you should have all this stuff all done, squared away, awesome user experience for months now. Because again, this is all stuff that Google has been talking about for months. I've been talking about it for a while on my website and here on this YouTube channel. So if you don't have these things in order, don't panic, don't give up, don't say, oh, well, it's too late for me, my SEO is doomed. It might be doomed in the short run, but because Google is constantly updating its algorithm and constantly crawling the internet and seeing what new content is out there, seeing what is out there and what people are doing, and new content that gets published, you can always improve. You can always improve your user experience, improve your content, make sure that you do have your ducks in a row. So even if it does not improve your rankings for this, after this rollout, you might experience a decline in your your search rankings and your traffic after this next rollout, despite what Google says, because again, it's true that it's not the only thing that Google measures. Google is looking at lots of things on your website and in your content to determine whether you should rank for certain searches, where you should rank for certain searches. It makes sense. But again, people frequently see huge shifts in their visibility, their online visibility, and their website traffic after these big rollouts. So you might experience a downshift this time, but if you act now and get your ducks in a row and you get everything you need in order to really make sure that you have that great user experience and you have everything Google is looking for, the next time they have a rollout, you'll be in a good position to experience an increase in rankings there. And we have seen that where people experience a drop in rankings at first, and then after the next core rollout, the next core algorithm update, suddenly they see a huge surge in their traffic because they got all their ducks in a row later. So it's the internet. Nothing is ever final, right? If you are doomed, it can be just temporary unless you really get your stuff together. And then for the next rollout, you'll be in a really good position. So again, as for what the next rollout holds, I mean, obviously we don't know that. Google might not even know that yet, but just think about what users want, right? Google is ultimately trying to point its users to content that is helpful, that answers their questions, that is really easy and intuitive to use, that loads quickly. So as long as you're providing your users with what they want, I think Google will find a way to figure out that you're providing users with what they want. You've got what it takes, you've got the goods, and you will reap the rewards. It might take a while to convince Google that you've got what it takes, but it's a long game. SEO is a long game. Content marketing is a long game. So even if your traffic is not where you want it to be yet, even if you do experience a dip in traffic after this next rollout, you can always reach out to me. I can take a look at your website and see if there's stuff you can be doing better. You can also just keep at it and keep providing that good stuff. So that is it. If you have any other questions, you can always reach me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. I have lots of other content like this on my blog. If you're looking for that, that is at avwritingservices.com. That is it for me, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.